Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
It's been 4 weeks since the spill that has sent more than 240 million gallons of raw sewage and wastewater into the Potomac River. Tonight, for the first time, D.C. Water's top officials took questions from reporters. News 4's Mark Seagraves has covered this disaster more closely than any other reporter from day one and joins us live. Mark, there was some controversy over remarks made today by the district's director of the Department of Environment. What happened?
Yeah, Eric. So before the press conference with DC Water officials briefed members of the DC Council. Press were allowed to attend that briefing. Also at that briefing was Richard Jackson, the director of the DC Department of Environment and Energy. And during that briefing, he contradicted the Bowser administration's and Maryland and Virginia's warning to stay away from the river and not to eat fish out of the river. After the meeting, I tried to ask him to explain himself, and he refused to talk to us. Take a look. It was the first time members of the DC Council had a formal briefing from DC Water officials. Also at the meeting, Richard Jackson, director of the DC Department of Environment. Jackson told the council members, despite the DC government advisory to avoid contact with the river and specifically not to fish in the river, that he believes it's safe to eat the fish caught in the Potomac. He also downplayed the seriousness of the recent test results showing elevated E. coli rates in the river. The meeting was not recorded, but after the briefing, we tried to ask Jackson to explain his comments.
Director Jackson, can you tell us why you directly contradicted the guidance your agency has given out about fishing and the river quality? How can you give that briefing to the DC Council and directly contradict what your agency has said?
During the council briefing and at the press conference, DC Water CEO David Gaddis said he has not heard from the White House or from FEMA before or after President Trump's social media post yesterday stating he would have FEMA take over the repair and cleanup. Gaddis said the EPA has been monitoring the situation.
They were not helping. I won't say they weren't helping. They were not there when we were making the repairs. They did reach out last week, but we have been in contact with EPA, especially Region 3, and we have been talking with them, especially about how we were making the repairs. We've given them briefings on what we were doing and how we were doing it. We've worked hand in hand with them. But as to the tweet, as far as I'm seeing it right now, we have not at this point in time sat down with EPA and said, we need this much money, or we need this, or we need that.
And while there is no estimate for how much the sewage spill repair and cleanup will cost, DC Water officials say most of that cost will be paid for by Maryland and Virginia.
So we're a regional wastewater authority. We allocate costs based on the volume that's treated. And so there are cost shares for all of our assets. So at Blue Plains, approximately 55% of the flow comes from outside of the District of Columbia. And so the 55% of the costs are then borne by the users of the system who send flow to DC. And we expect a similar cost split for this asset.
Maryland and Virginia.
That's correct.
Because that's where the flow comes from.
David Gaddis told council members it will take a lot of work to restore the public's confidence in DC Water. And until the pipeline is repaired, there is always the possibility of more overflows going into the Potomac, like we saw Super Bowl Sunday. So you're taking a look at the workaround here. That is raw sewage and wastewater being pumped into the C&O Canal at the rate of about 40 million gallons a day. This is the workaround that we've told you that DC Water has put into place to keep it from going.
40 million gallons of raw sewage a day. That's nasty. That's nasty, y'all. They're killing the fish. They're killing all the fish, y'all. Hit that like button. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We got to talk about this Potomac River DEI spill. Why am I calling it a DEI spill? Because it's a chocolate city, and they're dumping a lot of chocolate into the Potomac River right now. The Potomac River feeds into the Chesapeake Bay. It's a very important, huge, major waterway on the eastern seaboard, and they're stinking it up right now. I know it stank down there. That's really nasty. There's a A lot of solid and liquid waste going right into the water. And these niggas act like they can't get it together, man. These niggas acting like they can't get it together. It's crazy out there.
Going into the Potomac River, they say that pipeline will still be another 4 to 6 weeks before it's repaired and they can begin working on a remediation plan. They did give a brief preview of the remediation plan, and it does call for remediating this area of the C&O Canal and the shoreline here right at the spill site. But right now there are no plans for remediation downriver along the shoreline a mile or two below or into Washington, D.C. As for Director Jackson and his remarks, he issued a statement after his remarks to us saying that D.C. residents and everyone should still abide by the warning to stay away from the river, don't fish in the river, don't go near the river, but they are encouraged that test results are trending downward and they hope that trend continues. But until they have a few more weeks of testing, they want to play it safe and they don't want anyone going near the river or eating the fish out of the Potomac River. And as I've said before to you guys, not only can you smell this when you're out here, but it is just so pungent. You can taste it when you're talking.
I told you.
Back to you.
You can taste the stink. Oh my God. What you think it tastes like? What you think it tastes like? That's nasty. Oh man. Oh man. Could you imagine? They really got to do something about this down there. They really got to clean this up, y'all. Said you could taste it. Ew. You got to go home and rinse your mouth out.
An historic sewage spill along the Potomac River and the struggle to contain it are raising alarms after a major sewer line collapsed late last month, sending over 240 million gallons of waste into the water. For nearly a week, raw sewage flowed directly into the river before it could be diverted to a treatment facility. Yet reports of intermittent spills have continued into February, and repairs are expected to take more than a month. Public health experts say it could be one of the largest sewage spills in American history. For more, I'm joined by Hedrick Beelan. He's president of the Potomac Conservancy. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate the opportunity.
So let's just start with the obvious question here. How polluted is this water after all of that sewage spilled for as long as it did? What do we know?
Well, it was certainly unprecedented in terms of the amount of sewage going into the Potomac River, which is our nation's river, over just a week. And water quality sampling efforts have shown astronomical levels of pollution, well above the EPA guidelines for what is safe for humans to touch. And so, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to address this, both in terms of the river health, but also the remediation that's going to be needed to ultimately restore the area to a place where people can splash around safely.
Before we get to people in the water, what are some of the bigger environmental concerns? What are you looking at?
Well, I think, at a macro level, the good news is over decades, the Potomac River's gotten a lot better. We come out with a river report card every couple of years, and the Potomac's clearly making a comeback. But unfortunately, we saw when we released it, for example, pollution levels going down, fish populations doing better, and more people out recreating. But this amount of pollution is going to certainly change that equation. But it also raises another interesting point, which is this is a 54-mile-long pipe full of sewage that starts out near Dulles Airport. And where else is the pipe susceptible to breaking?
That's a big question. You think
54 miles of stink pipe. They got the stinky pipe in DC, y'all. Ew.
we still don't have answers?
We don't have answers to that just yet.
So one of the biggest questions we've heard from people in terms of the impact is on drinking water. Do we know if this is having an impact on people's drinking water in the region?
Well, the good news is this happened just downstream of the where two big straws go in to take in water, drinking water. And about 5 million people in the DC metro area get their drinking water at home and here from the Potomac. So we were fortunate that it happened downstream of those drinking water intakes, but it still is going to be problematic for months to come.
And in terms of what we know about the spill, what does all of that mean for the risk of people going into the water? Sounds like you don't recommend right now.
No, you should stay
For
away.
how long?
Yeah, you should stay away. And for how long is unknown. We're going to need to see continued water quality testing every day, we believe, for another 6 months. Because
6 months.
Even when the pollution levels are down where it's safe, the risk, it's such a active situation that the risk for additional pollution going in, additional sewage, raw sewage from our bathrooms going into the river remain.
So the pipeline here, as you mentioned, it serves Washington, D.C., but also Maryland and Virginia counties and both of those neighboring states as well. When you talk
Washington, D.C., and the surrounding counties are all effectively flushing their toilets right into the Potomac River right now. Because what happened is they have sewage pipes that take the water to facilities and they treat it and yada, yada, yada. One of those pipes burst somewhere along the way. It's a 54-mile-long pipe. At some point along that long 54 miles, it cracked. And the best thing they could do to think of to handle the problem was to just run all the excess water right into the river. And so now they're just stinking up the river.
about the cleanup and the testing that's to come, where's the accountability? Who's responsible for all of that?
Ultimately, DC Water, which is a local utility, is the owner of the pipe. But Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Montgomery County all contribute. So Virginia and Maryland all contribute. They also are on the board of DC Water. Because it is such a spill into a river, the EPA needs to be involved as well. So we've got local, state, and federal entities that, frankly, we think need to display greater leadership given the situation.
Greater leadership at the federal level or at local and state as well?
All three. We're hearing from lots of concerned citizens that they aren't getting answers to what's going on. They don't understand what they should or shouldn't be doing. And certainly they're concerned about accountability and ultimately action. I mean, this needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed as soon as possible. And then we need to take steps to an independent investigation looking at root causes to make some systemic changes to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, not just here, but certainly in other cities around the country.
Given the scale and the scope, is this something local and state governments can handle on their own? Because we've seen already President Trump really put the blame on local authorities, saying this is a Maryland and Virginia problem. They should fix it. If the EPA doesn't get involved here, can this be handled?
Yeah.
Trump is already feuding with local authorities, the governor, Westmoreland in particular. We're going to take a look in on that because, again, I am calling this a very DEI coded problem. You're going to learn why in a minute, but there's definitely a little bit of feud going on with Trump and the local authorities.
President Donald Trump and Maryland Governor Wes Moore are battling over the response to a January pipe rupture that sent millions of gallons of sewage flowing into the Potomac River. The 1960s-era pipe which burst is located northwest of Washington near Cabin John, Maryland. But fixing it falls under the jurisdiction of the D.C. Water Authority and the federal government. The Trump administration blames Governor Moore, a Democrat, for not updating Maryland's wastewater infrastructure and failing to request emergency help for the ecological disaster. Governor Moore's team says the Trump administration is shirking its responsibility on the repair and cleanup and that Maryland is ready to work with federal officials. The sewage spill has been diverted into the C&O Canal, according to DC Water, which says it will take weeks to repair the burst pipe. University of Maryland researchers are partnering with an environmental nonprofit to test parts of the Potomac River for E. coli and other pathogens.
And what they found was Staph aureus, right, which could lead to staph infections. They found MRSA. I think everybody knows what MRSA is. Prevents, antibiotics from working. We're worried about the river because it's the lifeblood of the region. Millions of people use it. We have watermen downriver that depend on it for their livelihoods. It's a drinking water supply for 5 million people. So our focus is on the river.
Washington, D.C.'s Department of Energy and Environment is also testing water quality and says drinking water remains safe, but has urged people to avoid unnecessary contact with the Potomac River and to keep pets away.
Now, like I said, there is a little bit of a squabble happening right now between the president and the governor and the leadership over there in the local DC area.
So, speaking of the president, he, of course, invites, or traditionally the White House invites governors here for the National Governors Association, which is part of why you're here this week, to the White House for dinner. And an invitation was not extended to you, although I understand there's been a little bit of lack of clarity on whether that's actually the case. But now other Democratic governors are also saying that they might not attend. Governor Bashir, one of them, if you're not extended an invitation. Would you like to see all of your Democratic governors join you in refusing to attend the dinner if you're not invited?
Well, I'm not casting judgment on any governor that chooses to attend. For any governor, if they choose to attend the dinner, that is their prerogative. I will not. And I also know it's because the president of the United States does not get to determine what my worthiness is. The reason I'm a member of the National Governors Association is because the people of Maryland elected me with a historic margin of victory, an historic number of individual votes to make me the governor of Maryland, not the president. The reason I'm the vice chair of the National Governors Association is because both Democratic and Republican governors voted for me to help lead the organization, not the president. And so I will not cast judgment on anyone else's decision, but my decision is very clear. If this is not going to be a serious gathering where we can talk about issues, where we can address the fact that everything is more expensive under the president, if we can address the fact that why he is spending his time giving tax cuts to his friends while making life more expensive on everyone else, if that's not the intent, then I have no desire of actually sitting down.
Do you think his lack of extension of an invitation to you, is the president motivated by race?
You know, honestly, I think that's a real question for President Trump.
Oh, man. You just had to lean into it a little bit, huh? You couldn't help but to just come close to biting the apple. You tried not to, but you leaned into it a little bit. Just say the president's not racist. This is just business, man. We just handling business. This is politics, man.
You know, what I know is, and what I've shown is, I will work with anybody. Just a couple weeks ago, you know, I led a delegation of Democratic and Republican governors. We all went to the White House and we were urging PJM, our regional grid operator, to be able to cap their prices for 2 years. And they have come back and didn't cap it for 2 years. They capped it for the rest of the decade. And so we have shown an ability and a very clear instinct to be able to work across the line in the state of Maryland. 97% of the bills that I've introduced that have gotten passed have been passed bipartisan. So I work with Democrats,
What's
Republicans.
it about for the president if it's not about race?
I think the president just seems to have a very real issue with the fact that I do not bow to him. And I will stand up to him because I will always defend my people. But you know, the fact that I'm the only black governor in this country, and the fact that he seems to have a real issue with me, I think that's an issue he's got to take up.
Do you think the president is a racist? He did post.
Damn, son. What's good with this bitch right here? Why'd you have to even go there? You just really had to go there. Like, so straight up, tell me straight up, nigga. You think the president racist or not? It's always these liberal white women on cable news. What is good with her? She just had to go there. She couldn't even just keep it professional. So what up, nigga? This nigga president a racist or what?
The fact that he seems to have a real issue with me, I think that's an issue he's got to take up.
Do you think the president is a racist? He did post an AI image of Barack and Michelle Obama, former President Obama, as an ape.
Well, I mean, he also has spent the past year making a direct assault on scholarships for HBCUs. That the past year we have seen the greatest assaults on unemployment for Black women that our country has ever seen. That he's spending his time attacking history and banning books. I honestly think that it's a question not just for the president, but frankly, I think it's also a question for white America if they are looking at his actions. And I think that's something that people need to wrestle with.
Damn, I feel like a hit piece. Meanwhile, at the same time that was happening.
What a sweetheart. I met Alice, and she was incarcerated for what some people would say today is not even a fine, right, Alice? It's not even a fine. And I said, how long has she been in jail? 22 years. I said, 22 years. And right, Alice? And come on up here, Alice. Come on up. I said 22 years, and she was on a phone call. This was over a phone call. I know about fake phone calls too, Alice, you know, remember? They tried to get me in a fake phone call. But Alice was in jail for like 22 years. I said, how many years does she have left? 28. I said, 28 years left. And I said it, and I mean, she admitted she made a little mistake, but it was not the kind of a mistake that you serve 50 years in jail for, like maybe a couple of months, maybe less than that. And I said, this is the most unfair. And then when I met her, I fell in love. I found my wife was very upset with it. Our great first lady did not like that, Scott. She didn't like it, but Alice is great. And say a couple of words. It was so ridiculous. 22 years, she had 28 left. And I said, let's get her the hell out. And we got her out. We did a commute. And then when I got to know her, she was so high quality. I said, full pardon. So she's cleaner.
Meanwhile, y'all on CNN asking if Trump is racist or not. Meanwhile, Trump is at the White House flirting with aunties he got out of jail. Trump is getting aunties out of jail and flirting with them on stage. Come on, man. Cut the nigga a break. Can we get a nigga some slack? He is on stage flirting with somebody auntie that he just got out of jail. And y'all acting like the nigga racist, man. Come on, man.
Give a nigga a break. Give a nigga a break. How much more can I take? Give a nigga a break.
Than anybody in this room, even than my friend right here. She's cleaner. Because of that, she's cleaner than anybody in this room.
Thank you, Mr. President. The feeling was mutual. I fell in love with this man, with his heart, with his heart for this country, with his heart to really bring America back to the form of greatness that it deserved. And that's exactly what he has done. My story is truly a Joseph story. This president right here, President Donald Trump, brought me from the prison pit to the White House. Only in America could there be a story like my story. And President Trump is the only president who would have had the courage to bring someone like me, someone who received a second chance, but who knows more than someone who has sit among the captives, than someone who has been in captivity themselves. I did not get comfortable in my own freedom, but I went back, as Harriet Tubman said she did. She went back to draw many others into freedom. And President Trump has listened to those recommendations. There's so much more to come, because when you see me, you see a miracle, you see hope, you see second chances, and you see someone who is willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work, do the hard work to help individuals gain their freedom. President Trump did something historic in his first term. He signed the First Step Act into law. And for that, over 40,000, and that number is low, over 40,000 individuals have come home to their families early. And you know, many of those were Black Americans who had no hope. This president right here.
You know, it's crazy. Biden only pardoned the niggas that was around him. Biden pardoned his sons. He pardoned his son and his homies, and that was it. I thought he liked Black people. Didn't you guys tell me that Biden was for Black people? Trump is out here in these streets. He's literally out here in these streets getting aunties out of jail.
As you look out upon this sea of Black Americans, this president hears you. This president cares for you. Don't let anyone tell you that this president right here, Donald Trump, is not for Black America, because he is. I'm standing here today as a testament to how he feels about Black Americans. There has never been a position like this. I don't know if there ever will be before, but I worked with him in his first term, and I'm proud to now officially have the title to make it happen. Let's get real with the realness. Let's get behind President Trump, who truly has turned our nation around and made us the envy of every country in the world. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, God, for recognizing and raising up this man to be the leader of the free world. I love you.
Trump was out there with them people today, man. He was out there getting the love, and y'all trying to call him racist. We're going to get back to that, though.
Great woman. You know, when I was looking for a pardon person, like a pardon czar, they gave me somebody from Harvard, somebody from Yale, somebody from Princeton, somebody from Penn, somebody from Stanford. And I said, do you know anything about it? Well, we can learn. You know, they can learn. And when I met Alice, I said, she's better than these people. And she's done a fantastic job. You know, I said to Alice, I said, so I'm looking for people like you to let out. How many people are there like you? She said, many. I said, many in jail. Think of it. 22 years she was in jail, and she had 28 years to go on a phone call. You admit you did a little something wrong, right? But it was like, okay, it wasn't 50 years. Even if you said 6 months, today it would be probably nothing. But even if you said some little time, but I said, I'm looking for other people like you. How many are there? Many. Then I was worried I said, well, maybe she's going to say everybody should be let out. We're not a believer in that. I said, so Alice, are there people that shouldn't be? You met a lot of people, right? Are there people that shouldn't be let out? Absolutely. Then I felt better, because there's some bad ones in there too, right? But you are fantastic, and you've been great and so respected all over the country, all over the world. In a sense, you've become a very big story. Thank you very much, Alice. I appreciate it. And we have Lynn Patton. Lynn, thank you. You've been such a
Wait, it's not over. He had some other things. He was up there talking about Jesse Jackson. Let me get to that really quickly.
I want to begin by expressing our sadness at the passing of a person who I knew very well. Jesse was a piece of work. I want to tell you. He was a piece of work, but he was a good man. He was a real hero, and I just want to pay my highest respects to Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's a good man. He was actually, as you got to know him, he got better and better all the time. A lot of people, you get to know them, they get worse and worse. Jesse got better and better. But I knew him well long before becoming president, and he really was special with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. You would say Jesse had serious street smarts, right? A very important ingredient to life, I will tell you. He was gregarious and someone who truly loved people and a force of nature. He was somebody that we're going to greatly miss. And on behalf of everyone here today, I know you join me in sending our condolences to the entire family. Had a great family. Come on. Thank you. Yes, you can. Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. I like her. Please.
I like him too. One thing I like about him, he keeps it real, just like Grandma. I appreciate that because I can trust him, because he tells exactly how he feels and what he thinks. Thank God for this president. I am filled, my cup runneth over, because he allowed his constituents, his people, to come to my house to interview me, to talk about the murder of my grandson. It seemed like nobody cared. I'm an advocate for murder. I marched. I rallied. I pulled out other families in the District of Columbia that had murders and did not have answers. Ooh. We marched and we rallied, and nobody heard me, Democrats. Get mad at me. Until this Republican sent his constituents, his people out there to interview me in my home. Have you ever heard of a thing? Then they invited me twice before Congress to testify for the beautiful bill that's going to change crime in the district. If you kill somebody, okay, you take a life, you do life. Just that simple. If you do a hush crime, you do hush time. Just that simple. And then we need National Guard, and which we did years ago. He brought it on. I love him. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about that racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be standing up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Back up off him. And Grandma
Back up
said,
off him. Grandma said, Grandma said, you leave my Trump alone, goddammit. Back up off him. You leave my Trump alone. I don't want to hear this shit. This racism bullshit. Oh my God. Yeah, Trump is out there getting the love today, man. Trump was really out there getting the love. And then again, we got to talk about the whole idea of, racism and this DEI thing. I want to take a little segue for a hot minute here. If you indulge me for a moment.
The courts and activists came up with a new definition of what would be illegal discrimination. And it gets rid of the idea of intention and intentional discrimination completely. Disparate impact is the conceit that if there's a standard that Blacks do more poorly at, it's discriminatory. So if you have a certain expectation of reading level or math skills to qualify to be a teacher, to be a firefighter, to be a police officer, and a employer administers a test and Blacks do more poorly on that, that's a racist test. Instead of meeting the standard, our response is to throw out the standard. And the employer is not racist. You don't have to show that the employer wants to discriminate against Blacks. The employer just wants a qualified workforce. But if he has used some kind of standard that means that there are less Blacks qualifying, that then becomes something that violates civil rights. I'll give you an example right out of the Biden administration.
Maryland State Police hoping to settle a U.S. Justice Department investigation into its alleged racial discrimination by paying almost $3 million.
The Maryland State Police wanted to make sure that the state troopers could read at a very basic level, because as a police officer, you're going to need to write police reports. You're going to need to understand the patrol.
Wait. They can't even read? Are you about to tell me that they hiring Black police that can't read? I know that's not what I'm about to hear. Please don't tell me that they're about to hire Black police who can't really read. Because it would be racist to not hire the illiterate police. It would just be racist, and you don't want to have racism in your police. Maybe the progressive proper thing to do is to hire some illiterate niggas. I don't know. You guys tell me, is that the appropriate thing to do? Should we hire some illiterate niggas?
Guide, you're going to need some level of dealing with written language and being able to read and write. Very minimal level. So the Maryland State Police had a written exam. And this is the type of question, 4 very simple paragraphs written at like maybe a 3rd grade level that discussed theft from libraries in the United States. And then followed up a true or false question. Is theft a problem in US libraries? Just reading comprehension, if you've been able to understand this 4-paragraph passage. Well, this test, and the questions were all at that level of simplicity, had what's known as a disparate impact on Black applicants to be Maryland state troopers. Black applicants failed the test at higher rates than whites. The Maryland state troopers didn't intend to exclude Black state troopers. Racism had nothing to do with it. It was a colorblind, neutral test of skills. But because it had a disparate impact on Black applicants and disqualified more Black applicants, the Biden Justice Department brought a suit against the Maryland State Police for having a discriminatory test.
Hiring tests that unfairly and unlawfully excluded them from employment.
This is ridiculous. Taxpayers should not be on the hook for this. It was not a racist department. Disparate impact means that an institution can be completely colorblind. It can want to have as many different races as possible. But if it has a standard that it's colorblind, meritocratic, but that Blacks do poorly on, you got to throw out the standard. And it's not just sort of public service jobs like policing. Our taxpayers in New York recently paid out $2 billion in damages because the exam for licensing teachers in New York State, which I can tell you went through decades of being dumbed down to proleptically avoid disparate impact.
So the test was already dumbed down for Black people, of course, right? The test was already dumbed down. And they said, nah, it's not dumb enough. It's not dumb enough. And now that's kind of what leads up to things like this whole catastrophic disaster over here in the Potomac River.
Democrats all. It was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right? No. I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans through record tax cuts, through the Trump accounts that all Americans can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically Black colleges and universities across the country. Again, the president is protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million Black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the Black backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits and for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans, regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing. Jennifer.
I know that everybody has seen the president's tweet about the sewage pipe spill. It is riddled with insults, but it's also riddled with massive inaccuracies. It is worth time to actually be able to correct the record and to talk about accurately what actually happened and what's been done. As you might know, on January 19th of 2026, a section of the Potomac Interceptor sewage line collapsed near the Clara Barton Parkway and I-495. But the president's tweet actually failed to mention a few things. First, that for the past century, the federal government has been responsible for the Potomac interceptor. The sewage pipe that he is talking about is on federal land. And over these past 4 weeks, the Trump-Vance administration has failed to act. This federal administration has been shirking its responsibilities and putting people's health at risk. The second thing, on Friday, Maryland agencies and DC Water presented a major 2-hour legislative hearing in the Maryland General Assembly and provided updates on the cleanup and also the status of water quality. Trump's EPA was invited, and they refused to attend. Maryland, on the other hand, has stepped up to protect its residents, to protect drinking water, and to ensure accountability. Third, Maryland officials were on site within hours of the leak to do our part to coordinate the response and to ensure that the public was protected. Since the spill occurred, the Maryland Department of the Environment has been monitoring bacteria levels, coordinating with local jurisdictions, and conducting multiple site inspections. MDE issued a precautionary closure to a shellfish harvesting area from Charles County to Route 301, and in coordination with the Maryland Department of Health, counties have issued public health advisories and will track ongoing water quality sampling. Testing shows bacteria levels.
Just say we can't get no crabs. Did I just hear this nigga say you can't get crabs in Maryland no more? Oh, goddamn. God damn it. These niggas done ruin the crab. That's like the one good thing about Maryland. Washington, D.C. and blue crabs. That's it. Those are the only things going on in Maryland. You got Washington, D.C., because everybody needs a state's cap. You know, we need D.C., theoretically anyway. And then they got blue crabs. And now this nigga just told me crab season is officially dead. The crabs are literally drowning in DC shit right now. Oh, man. No more crabs, huh? Had your last bushel. That's it. No crabs this season. Summertime about to come up too. Oh, y'all gonna be so mad.
Shellfish harvesting area from Charles County to Route 301, and in coordination with the Maryland Department of Health, counties have issued public health advisories and will track ongoing water quality sampling. Testing shows bacteria levels decreasing over time and significantly lower concentrations farther downstream from the site of the initial spill. So Maryland will continue monitoring and remain engaged throughout the full remediation and continue to partner with leaders in the District of Columbia and the Commonwealth of Virginia as part of our larger coordinated response. We believe in being good neighbors, but to blame Maryland in this, when this is a DC pipe on federal land, is asinine, it is disingenuous, absurd, and politically motivated. If this federal administration wants to show up to take action, Maryland will work collaboratively, as we always do, to be responsive and help to keep our people informed about the plan and to remediate change. But if the president wants me to ask nicely, my response is this: please, Mr. President, do your job.
Bald-headed nigga talking real tough to the president. Talking really tough to the president. And he's full of shit anyway, because the federal government isn't responsible for local maintenance like that. 52 miles of pipe, I'm telling you, bro, that's a you problem. I already know that's a you problem.
Response, and officials have told CBS that some of that aging infrastructure is a concern, that this particular pipe wasn't even of the most urgent concern. Do you know if the government is looking into which other pipes could be at risk of collapsing?
Well, the next step in this process is for any of the three local jurisdictions involved, whether that's the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland and Governor Moore, or the District of Columbia, to step forward and to ask the federal government for help and to ask for the Stafford Act to be implemented here so that the federal government can go and take control of this local infrastructure that has been abandoned and neglected by Governor Moore in Maryland for far too long. In fact, it's no secret that Maryland's water and infrastructure have been in dire need of repair. Their infrastructure has received a nearly failing grade in the 2025 report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers. This is the same grade they've received 5 years earlier. There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in. And for all of the environmentalists in the room and across the District of Columbia, let's all hope and pray that this governor does the right thing and ask President Trump to get involved, because it will be an ecological and environmental disaster if the federal government does not step in to help. But of course, we need the state and local jurisdictions to make that formal request. That's part of the legal process to move forward. Peter.
So you said that any of the three Democrats just need to ask. A few minutes ago, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore asked. He said, if the president wants me to ask nicely, our response is this: please, Mr. President, do your job.
To which I say, I'll ask the president and we will provide you with the next steps. But in all seriousness, the federal government has been preparing plans. The White House has been in contact with FEMA, with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, we've been standing by. This is a problem we want to fix, not just for the federal government, but for everyone who lives in the District of Columbia, including all of you. So you're welcome.
Now, one of the big problems that I noticed really looking at this story is that the crew in charge of it, DC Water, whatever the name of that crew is. Well, let me go over to the Daily Caller first of all. According to the Daily Caller, DC Water's CEO oversaw $520 million in DEI contracts in the biggest sewage spill in U.S. history. DC Water CEO David Gaddis has championed equity and diversity throughout his tenure. He was also named in a lawsuit against his former employee for allegedly withholding information about water contamination in Flint, Michigan. So he's been in this position just handing out DEI money. I'm not going to read the entirety of this article here, but just know this is a DEI guy, basically, right? And the DEI industry is inherently corrupt. It's basically a patronage system. You know, you get in there on some type of grant money or whatever, then you get your people in there, you take over. But let me show you. Let's get to him in his own words, rather.
That they serve, and an organization that look very similar to you. Do whatever I can to make sure that equity is present wherever I work and in wherever I have control of. And at DC Water, I've been intentional about that.
And you did that at the other utility that you worked at as well, right?
I did that at Indianapolis Water, and I've done that here at DC Water. You know, when I arrived at DC Water, this was an organization that looked very similar to our industry. It was predominantly, white male at the top, but this is a utility that's, more than 70% people of color work at this utility. And I really believe, and I still believe, and it has been fantastic. The outcomes have been fantastic, but the people at the top, the executives, the chiefs in that C-suite, they should look like the employees that they serve and that they work with, and the same thing with the community. And so my executive team, looks exactly like the community. It looks like the employees, the staff, be it people of color, women, men, and it's just a fantastic team that has come together to do a lot of great things here at DC Water and in the community for the customers.
So David, I think I mentioned to you before that I heard one of your executive team speaking about the transformation at DC Water and how you were at the helm of the leadership of it. And since that moment, I really wanted to have you here for Good Day AWWA. And I'd like you to just talk a little bit about the cultural vision that you have, and you've spoken about it a little bit, and the steps you had to put in place to make the transitions, especially with the executive staff, but also also throughout the organization?
Yeah, well, first of all, one of the things that I branded when I came here to DC Water was I said that we're going to be about people, place, and pay. And first of all, about the people, that's hiring the best people in the marketplace and putting them around great people as well. And then create an environment, which is the place where everybody wants to come to work and present themselves as their authentic selves every day. You don't have to come to work being someone else. You come as your authentic self, and let's get the job done. And then last but not
What does that even mean? What if your authentic self is bad at manual labor?
least is pay. Everybody should be paid equitably, and there shouldn't be men making more money than women or whatever it might be. Everyone should be treated equitably from that standpoint. And as a result of that, I was intentional about that. I was totally intentional about that. And the same thing with the chiefs or the C-suite as well. I was intentional about what it should look like, who should be where, and so forth and so on. And as a result of that, I think that we've been able to put together a great team and do some fantastic things here at DC Water. And DC Water has always been a fantastic utility, but we stepped it up and took it up just another notch is what we were able to do by being intentional regarding equity and then also removing all the silos in the organization as well, and being able to work together as a team.
So today, your executive team.
So that's the guy right there in charge of this whole thing. He's clearly a DEI agent. His whole team is full of DEI people, and who knows how long it's going to take for them to clean up this water spill and the Potomac. But crabbing is done. And I know crabs eat shit already, but still, there ain't enough crabs to eat all that shit right away. Plus, there's other things in the water too. It's just a mess, y'all. It's just a mess. I know it's hard to hear, but you're not gonna get your crab season this summer, y'all. It's over, man. It's over. But I wanted to cover that really quickly. There's something else happening right now. It just caught my eye. I'm gonna shut this down and then immediately bring something back live. I might even try to funnel you guys over there. Let me see if I can get this thing going long enough. I mean, fast enough to make it happen. All right, yeah, boom. We're gonna set this next thing up. There's something happening that's on Twitter, on X right now, and I really want to cover this. I want to record this whole deal. So if you guys sit tight for like 5-ish minutes, not even that long, what I'm gonna do is set this thing up so that we can move easily into the next show. And there it is. All right, let me see if I can pull this up here. I got to do it on the laptop. But yeah, there's a conversation happening on Twitter right now. There's a bunch of people responding to that whole black men trust black women thing. And I want to take a look at something real quick. I want to capture as much as I can get. Maybe they'll let me jump in there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I got enough pull. But I'm going to jump into that next conversation. And I'm going to see if I can get this funneled to you guys quickly. Bam, bam, perfect. Copy. Let's go here. All right, I think we got it. Set up the quick redirect. Okay. No, that's not the right one either. Damn it. There it is. Bam. All right. Bam, that is locked in and we're good to go there. All right, so we're gonna get this thing shut down over here. Thank you guys for coming through here. But like I said, there is some other content I'm really I'm desperate to record. So appreciate you guys coming through. We're gonna end this one and I will see you on the other side of this show.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.